A 10-year-old boy sees masked men sneak into an old mansion. 30 minutes later, a millionaire arrives, ready to step inside. But just as he reaches the door, the boy shouts from across the street, "Don't go into the house." And in that moment, he saves a life. What was hidden inside that mansion? And why would someone want a successful man dead? This is the true story of courage, betrayal, and how one small voice changed everything. In a sleepy suburb on the edge of Seattle, Washington, where towering pine trees whispered secrets to the wind and the streets fell silent by sunset, a mansion stood untouched by time. It had once belonged to a prominent railroad tycoon, but had fallen into disrepair after decades of abandonment. Peeling paint, ivy-covered bricks, and windows with broken shutters gave it a haunted, forgotten look. But to Alex Maddox, it radiated opportunity. At 44, Alex had built a name for himself as a tech entrepreneur and real estate investor. His work ethic was legendary, and his generosity was whispered about in non-profit circles. But success came at a cost. Loneliness followed him like a shadow. He lived among polished surfaces in boardrooms, but his heart remained hungry for something real. When he purchased the decaying mansion, people raised eyebrows. Why spend millions restoring a relic when he could build a modern palace from scratch? But Alex didn't care about appearances. The mansion, with its creaking floors and aged grandeur, felt alive. A house with a soul, he often said. His renovation team was due to complete work in a week. That Friday evening, Alex decided to inspect the progress before officially moving in. He planned to meet with his interior architect and spend some quiet time in the main hall visualizing the life he hoped to build there. Meanwhile, a few blocks away, 10-year-old Jamie Rivera sat on the cold curb outside a closed convenience store, his backpack hugged tightly to his chest. His mother, Angela, worked a night shift at a 24-hour diner and couldn't afford childcare. They were new to the neighborhood, living in a small studio apartment above a laundromat. Jamie was a quiet kid, bright but shy, often found sketching superheroes or reading comics under street lamps. He had discovered a shortcut through the woods that led to the big mansion. The place fascinated him. He liked to pretend it was the headquarters of a secret agency or a castle under siege. But what he saw that night was no storybook fantasy. As Jamie munched on a sandwich from his backpack, headlights cut through the dusk. A dark SUV rolled silently toward the mansion, stopping just short of the gravel driveway. The vehicle had no license plates. 3 men in dark clothing and ski masks exited swiftly, moving with the precision of people who had done this. Before Jamie's heart began pounding, he ducked behind a thick hedge and watched, breath shallow. The men disappeared behind the house. 5 minutes passed like hours. Then they emerged again, faster this time, hopped back into the SUV, and sped away into the darkness. Every instinct in Jamie told him this wasn't normal. He wasn't sure what the men had done, but something was terribly wrong. He didn't want to be caught spying, so he waited until the street was silent again. Then he ran like his legs were on fire, like the shadows were chasing him. That was when Alex Maddox's silver Tesla pulled up. He stepped out of the car wearing a tailored coat and holding a tablet filled with floor plans. His architect followed behind, chatting about tile options and chandelier placements. Jamie didn't think. He didn't plan. He didn't even know how to explain what he saw. He just felt the urgency swelling in his chest like a tidal wave. So, he did the only thing he could think of. He screamed, "Don't go into the house." Alex froze mid-step. The shout cut through the quiet evening like a siren. He turned sharply to see a young boy standing across the street, panting and wild-eyed. "Please don't go inside, something's wrong." The architect looked bewildered. "Who is this kid?" But Alex narrowed his eyes. Jamie's voice trembled, with real fear, not mischief. He wasn't being dramatic, he was desperate. "What did you see, son?" Alex called. "There were men," Jamie cried. 3 of them. They broke in through the back door. They didn't stay long, and then they left fast. They were wearing masks. Alex's instincts flared. He looked at the mansion. The lights were off, the porch quiet, but something in the pit of his stomach twisted. He was a man who trusted gut feelings, and this one was screaming. He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police. We're not stepping foot inside." Jamie stood there shaking, unsure if he'd done the right thing. But then Alex walked toward him instead of the house, offering a calm smile. "You might have just saved our lives," he said softly. 20 minutes later, flashing lights painted the street red and blue. Police cordoned off the area, and a bomb squad was deployed. What they discovered in the basement turned the night into a near tragedy. An improvised explosive device had been installed beneath the main entry hall. Set on a timer to detonate shortly after Alex's arrival, it was a targeted, deliberate trap. The intruders had bypassed the house's incomplete security system and planned it for maximum devastation. If Jamie hadn't spoken up, Alex and his architect would have walked right into a fatal explosion. News of the attempted murder spread quickly. Local headlines praised the mysterious boy who had thwarted an assassination. The police traced the SUV from highway cameras, and within days, they arrested 3 men. The evidence led straight to a shocking mastermind, Alex's longtime business associate, Victor Caldwell. Victor had once been Alex's friend, a co-founder of his first company. But greed had rotted that bond. Over the years, envy festered into hatred. With Alex's growing success, Victor felt overshadowed, betrayed. And so he orchestrated the plan: remove Alex and inherit the empire they had once built together. The betrayal devastated Alex, but something else filled the void left by his friend's treachery. It was the memory of that small voice, crying out from the darkness, "Don't go into the house." The next morning, the story was all over the news. Reporters stood outside the mansion with microphones in hand. "Millionaire narrowly escapes bombing thanks to 10-year-old boy," they said. "A young hero saves a life." But in a small, quiet apartment above a laundromat just 3 blocks away, Jamie Rivera sat silently on his bed. He didn't feel like a hero. His hands were still shaking, and he hadn't slept at all. His mother, Angela, had just come home from her night shift, and when she heard what had happened, her heart nearly stopped. "You ran toward a man you didn't even know?" she asked, kneeling beside him. Jamie nodded. "I didn't know what to do, Mom. I felt like I had to stop him." Angela pulled him into a hug, her voice soft and full of emotion. "You did the right thing. You saved someone's life. I'm so proud of you, Jamie." Just then, someone knocked on their door. Angela stood up, worried. They didn't get visitors. Ever. When she opened the door, a tall man in a navy coat stood outside. His face was kind and his eyes were tired, like he hadn't slept either. "Hi," he said gently. "I'm Alex Maddox." Angela froze. She had seen his face on the news. She knew who he was. I'm sorry to just show up like this," he continued. "But I needed to thank the boy who saved my life." Angela turned to Jamie, who peeked out from behind her. Alex knelt down so he could look Jamie in the eyes. "You didn't have to do what you did. You could have stayed quiet. You could have gone home, but instead you spoke up. You stopped me from walking into that house, and because of you, I'm alive today." Jamie's eyes filled with tears. No one had ever said something like that to him before. Alex stood and looked at Angela. "Ma'am, I can't imagine what it's like to raise a child alone, especially under difficult circumstances. I know it's not easy, and I know how special your son is." Angela smiled softly, her hands still shaking. "He's everything to me." "I want to help," Alex said. "I'd like to move you both into a new home, one that's safe and comfortable. I also want to make sure Jamie has a great education. If it's all right with you, I'd like to take care of everything." Angela blinked in disbelief. You don't have to do that." "I know I don't, but I want to. Jamie saved my life. It's the least I can do." Tears rolled down Angela's cheeks. For years she had worked late nights, skipping meals, walking miles to save money on bus fare just to give her son a chance. And now, this man, a complete stranger, was offering them something they had only dreamed of. "Thank you," she whispered. Thank you so much." 3 weeks later, Jamie and his mother stood in front of a small but beautiful house on a quiet street not far from where the mansion stood. It had a red door, a garden full of blooming flowers, and a tall oak tree that shaded the front yard. Inside, everything smelled like fresh paint and new beginnings. There was a bedroom just for Jamie, with blue curtains and shelves for books and toys. For the first time in his life, he had his own desk, a soft bed, and a place to dream. Alex visited them often. He took Jamie out for ice cream, brought him comic books, and even helped him with homework. He never treated Jamie like a charity case. He treated him like family. One afternoon, Alex sat with Jamie on the porch steps. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. "Jamie," he said, "do you remember the first time we met?" Jamie nodded. "Yeah, I was scared." "I was too," Alex admitted. "But you were brave. You didn't run away. You stood up. And that takes more courage than most people ever show in a lifetime." Jamie looked down, a little embarrassed. "I just felt like I had to." "That's what makes a hero," Alex said. "Not strength or money, but doing the right thing even when it's hard, even when you're afraid." Jamie smiled, and for the first time he felt proud of what he had done. Meanwhile, in the courtroom, Caldwell sat in silence as the judge read out the sentence. 25 years in prison for conspiracy to commit murder and attempted bombing. The evidence was clear. The security camera footage, the fingerprints, the phone records. It all led back to him. He stared at Alex from across the room. But Alex didn't return the look. He wasn't angry anymore, just disappointed. They had once been friends. They had built a company together. But somewhere along the way, greed had poisoned everything. As the guards took Victor away, Alex stood tall. He felt no joy in victory, just peace in survival, and gratitude toward a 10-year-old boy who had changed his life forever. Back at the mansion had been completely repaired and inspected. The bomb was gone, the danger passed. But Alex decided not to move in. Instead, he turned the mansion into something else. A community center for children and families in need. It had classrooms, art rooms, and even a small library. He named it the Jamie Rivera Center for Hope. At the grand opening, Jamie stood on stage holding a small microphone. His voice trembled, but he spoke clearly. "I'm not special," he said. "I was just a kid who saw something scary and didn't want someone to get hurt. But Mr. Maddox showed me that when you do the right thing, even small people can make a big difference." The audience clapped. Some wiped their eyes. Angela stood in the front row, proud and beaming. Alex walked up and put a hand on Jamie's shoulder. "You may not think you're special," he said, "but to me, and to this whole city, you're a hero." 3 years passed. The neighborhood where Jamie once sat on sidewalks had changed, and so had he. The boy who once carried a backpack full of crushed pencils and hand-me-down notebooks now walked with confidence. He had grown taller, his smile brighter. He wore a blue jacket with a small pin on the collar, a silver star that read, "Bravery." It had been given to him by the mayor of Seattle during a special ceremony. People clapped and cameras flashed, but Jamie didn't care about being famous. He only cared about helping others, just like he once helped Alex. Jamie's new home had become a place of joy. Angela no longer worked long night shifts. With Alex's support, she was able to study nursing and now worked at a nearby clinic, helping families like hers. The community center, the Jamie Rivera Center for Hope, had become the heart of the neighborhood. Every afternoon, children ran inside to paint, play music, and learn. Jamie helped out there after school. He read stories to younger kids, organized games, and sometimes just sat and listened to those who needed a friend. One rainy evening, while wiping down tables in the center's art room, Jamie heard a small voice behind him. "Are you the boy who saved that man?" Jamie turned to see a young girl with wide eyes and curly hair. She was holding a crayon in one hand and a folded paper in the other. "Yeah," Jamie said, smiling kindly. "That was me." My big brother says you're brave. He says you didn't even think about being scared. Jamie chuckled. I was very scared. But sometimes being brave means doing what's right, even when you're afraid. The girl looked at her drawing and handed it to him. It was a crayon picture of a boy standing in front of a big house shouting, "Stop!" in big red letters. That's you, she said. Jamie took the picture and held it close. Thank you. I love it. Meanwhile, Alex Maddox had changed too. The near-death experience had opened his eyes. Before the explosion, he was always in a rush, chasing business meetings, flying between cities, always working. But after Jamie saved his life, everything looked different. He no longer wanted more buildings or more money. He wanted meaning. He sold parts of his company and gave millions to schools, hospitals, and families in need. But his favorite place in the world was still the Jamie Rivera Center. Every Friday, Alex visited the center. He taught classes about life, business, and dreams. He wasn't just a guest, he was family. The children called him Mr. Alex, and he always brought cookies. One afternoon, he sat with Jamie on the back porch of the center, watching the children play. You've grown a lot, Alex said, sipping tea. Jamie smiled. Still scared of spiders, though, Alex laughed. A true hero with one weakness. Jamie looked thoughtful. Do you ever think about that night? All the time, Alex replied quietly. But not with fear, with gratitude. That night, I saw the worst in people, those who tried to hurt me. But I also saw the best. You. Jamie looked down. I didn't even think, I just yelled. And you saved my life. That one moment changed everything, Alex said. And not just for me, for so many others. Look around. All of this happened because you chose to speak up. The next year, something unexpected happened. A national newspaper published a story, titled "The Boy Who Saved a Millionaire and Built a Legacy." The article went viral. News stations, podcasts, and websites all wanted to interview Jamie. But Jamie didn't care about being famous. He turned down most requests. The only one he accepted was an invitation to speak at a youth conference. On the day of the event, Jamie stood on a big stage in front of hundreds of young people. He wore a simple white shirt and jeans. No spotlight, no big speech. Just his truth. I'm not a genius, I'm not rich, I'm not a superhero, he said. I'm just a kid who saw something wrong and decided to say something. He looked across the room at hundreds of eyes watching him. Sometimes doing the right thing is scary. You think, what if I'm wrong? What if people laugh at me? But if you stay silent, bad things can happen. Speaking up doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. The audience clapped for a long time. Afterward, many students lined up to hug him or thank him. Some said they were inspired to help in their own communities. One girl whispered, "Because of you, I told someone about my brother getting bullied. You gave me courage." Jamie smiled and nodded. That's what heroes do, even little ones. 10 years later, Jamie stood at the front gate of a university holding a backpack and a dream. He had just received a full scholarship to study criminal justice. He wanted to become a detective, to help protect others the way he once protected. Alex beside him stood Alex Maddox, a little older now but still sharp-eyed and proud. You ready? Alex asked. Jamie nodded. I've been ready since the day I yelled, "Don't go into the house." Alex laughed. That moment changed the world, and now you're going to change it even more. Jamie looked up at the university's tall buildings, then turned back to the city that once knew him as a shy boy from a poor family. He whispered to himself, even small people can do big things. And with that, he walked through the gate, one step closer to his future. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more inspirational stories. Share this video with someone who needs hope today.